In the spring of 1905, after exploring the ancient city of Aleppo, Gertrude Bell prepared to continue her journey into the Turkish-speaking regions of the Ottoman Empire. Her next destination was Antioch, situated in modern-day Turkey, 120 kilometers west of Aleppo. Bell turned her attention to restructuring her caravan.
All my leisure moments during the 2 days in Aleppo were occupied in changing muleteers. It seemed a necessary, if a regrettable, measure. At Antioch, we should reach the limits of the Arabic-speaking population. Habib and his father had no word of Turkish. Mikhail owned to a few substantives, such as egg, milk, and piastra, while I was scarcely more accomplished. I shrank from plunging with my small party into lands where we should be unable to do more than proclaim our most pressing needs or ask the way.
Bell hired a local named Faris to organize her new caravan. He came recommended for his logistical experience, but his methods prioritized efficiency over ethics. The Aleppan model of caravan management was built to maximize profit and minimize labor costs, relying on an untrained, underfed labor force that required constant oversight.
He hired 2 boys at a starvation wage to do all the work of the camp and the march, and fed them on starvation fare. This unhappy couple went on foot, and it was a part of their contract with Faris that he should give them shoes, but he refused to do so until I interfered and threatened to dock his wages of the price of the shoes and buy them myself. I was obliged also to look into the commissariat and see that the pair had at least enough food to keep them in working condition. But in spite of all my efforts, the hired boys deserted at every stage, and I suffered continual annoyance from the delays caused by the difficulty of finding others.
As the road grew more demanding, her trusted cook Mikhail, who had accompanied her since the start of her journey in Palestine, relapsed into old habits. His drinking posed both a logistical and emotional burden, threatening the stability of her already strained camp.
It was just when the difficulties of the journey multiplied that Mikhail's virtue collapsed. 2 days spent in drinking the health of his departing companions were enough to shatter the effects of 2 months' sobriety. From that time forward, the arak bottle bulked large in his saddlebags. No amount of vigilance could keep Mikhail out of the wine shop when we reached a town.
Arak, a clear spirit distilled from grapes and flavored with aniseed, is traditionally diluted with water and enjoyed across Turkey and the Levant. Mikhail's use, however, was neither social nor restrained. His dependence grew more disruptive by the day. One afternoon, Bell rode ahead with her escort, expecting the baggage animals to catch up by evening. When the sun dipped below the horizon, she learned that the muleteers had pitched camp elsewhere, forcing her to ride on through fading light to rejoin them. Instead of order, she was met by chaos.
We heard the shouts of Mikhail, who, under the influence of potations of arak, was raging like a wild beast and refusing to give the new muleteers any hint as to the way in which to deal with my English tent. Since I was the only sane person who knew how the poles were to be fitted together, I was obliged to do the greater part of the work myself by the light of 2 candles. It is ill arguing with a drunken man, but with what feelings I kept silence, I hope that the recording angel may have omitted to note.
Mikhail had once been a loyal companion, but now necessity forced her to dispense with sentiment. She could no longer carry his chaos.
Adversity teaches many lessons. I look back with mingled feelings upon the uneasy 4 weeks between our departure from Aleppo and the time when Providence sent me another and a better man, and I hardened my heart to dismiss Mikhail. But I do not regret the schooling that was forced on me.
As the caravan climbed into the Kurdish Highlands, Bell traveled under the escort of a zaptieh, Haj Najib, a Kurd who proved to be both capable and familiar with the terrain. In the rocky hills near the hamlet of Kashabin, they encountered an encampment.
Here, amid a few old walls and many modern refuse heaps, we found a Kurdish camp, one of the springtime camps in which half-nomadic people dwell with their flocks at the season of fresh grass. The Kurdish shepherds crowded round us and conversed with Najib in their own tongue, which sounded vaguely familiar on account of its likeness to Persian. They spoke Arabic also, a queer jargon full of Turkish words.
The Kurdish language, belonging to the Iranian branch of the Indo-European family, is closely related to Persian. The Kurds, an indigenous ethnic group of the Middle East, are primarily spread across the highlands of modern-day Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Under the Ottoman Empire, many Kurdish tribes were granted semi-autonomous status in exchange for military service, especially in the rugged frontier zones bordering Persia. This arrangement allowed tribal structures and customs to endure. In a region where reputation preceded people, Bell found the Kurds to be more gracious than she had expected.
The Kurd has not been given a good name in the annals of travel. Report would have him both sulky and quarrelsome, but for my part, I have found him to be endowed with most of the qualities that make for agreeable social intercourse.
That evening, they shared a simple but generous meal offered by the local sheikh: flatbread, yogurt, olives, and warm milk fresh from the herd. After dinner, Bell discreetly asked Najib if she could offer payment.
I took Najib aside and asked him whether I might give money in return for my entertainment. He replied that on no account was it to be thought of. Kurds do not expect to be paid by their guests.
As the caravan advanced, Bell watched the shape of a distant ruin begin to break the ridgeline. Her destination, the ancient church of St. Simeon Stylites. A 5th century ascetic, Simeon had shocked and inspired the Christian world by living atop a pillar for nearly 40 years, exposed to sun, wind, and cold. His radical devotion drew thousands of pilgrims, prompting the construction of a vast cruciform basilica around the very pillar on which he stood.
I knew that the great church of St. Simon Stylites stood upon a hill and must be visible from afar, though the famous column of the saint, round which the church was built, had fallen centuries ago. I wandered away into the sweet spring night, through the stately and peaceful church below the walls of which we were lying, and presently found myself in a circular court, open to the sky, and in the centre rose in former days the column whereon St. Simon lived and died.
Over the following days, Bell explored the surrounding hills of Mount Simeon, dotted with the ruins of once thriving Christian settlements. Basilicas, hostels, and tombs, many dating to the 5th and 6th centuries, testify to a flourishing pilgrimage economy shaped by the influence of Antioch.
The Church of St. Simon was raised not by local effort only, but as a tribute to the famous saint from the whole Christian world. And probably it was not executed by local workmen, but by the builders and stonecutters of Antioch.
Antioch, known as Antakya in modern-day Turkey, had once been the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, known later as the Byzantine Empire. Though Byzantium inherited Roman law and military structures, it evolved in a Greek-speaking, Christianized direction, with Constantinople at its head. The divide between Latin West and Greek East widened in the 4th to 6th centuries, culminating in increasing ecclesiastical disputes and divergent political aims. The Roman dream of unity was revived under Emperor Justinian, but his costly campaigns to reconquer the West devastated the East, especially Syria.
I would suggest that this decline was due in part to the excessive burden of taxation laid by Justinian on the eastern provinces of his empire during his efforts to recover the western. The social and political organization of his dominions collapsed under the strain of his wars in Italy and North Africa.
As Bell continued her journey, she took on a new guide, Musa, a Kurdish Yezidi man whose cheerfulness and regional knowledge soon proved indispensable. Once trust had taken root, their shared travels opened a space for religious discussion.
We had reached a point of familiarity where I thought I might fairly expect him to enlighten me on the Yezidi doctrines. Therefore, whatever may be the custom in Europe, in Asia, it is not polite to ask a man what he believes unless he regards you as an intimate. We talked of beliefs as we went, guardedly, since our acquaintance was as yet young, and Musa admitted that the Yezidis worshipped the sun. A very proper object of adoration, said I, and thinking to please him went on to mention that the Ismailis worshipped both sun and moon, but he could scarcely control his disgust at the thought of such idolatry.
The Yezidis, a minority religion composed solely of Kurds, believe in one God who entrusted the world to 7 holy angels. The most revered among them is Melik Taus, the peacock angel, a radiant figure often misunderstood by outsiders as a satanic entity, a misinterpretation that fueled centuries of persecution. Though Musa told Bell that they worship the sun, the description was likely not literal. In practice, Yezidis do not worship celestial bodies. Rather, they pray facing the sun, as a gesture of reverence toward divine light, an act rooted in older Mesopotamian and Zoroastrian customs. Their spiritual worldview is shaped by a syncretic mix of ancient religions, Sufi mysticism, and regional folklore. Though commonly referred to as Yezidis, the origin of the name is debated. Some trace it to the Umayyad Caliph Yazid, a connection the Yezidis themselves reject, while others believe it derives from the Zoroastrian term Yazata, meaning divine being. Bell probed further as to whether Yezidis have their own mosques.
No, replied Musa. We worship under the open sky. Every day at dawn, we worship the sun. Have you, said I, an imam who leads the prayer? On feast days, said he, the sheikh leads the prayer, but on other days every man worships for himself. We count some days lucky and some unlucky. Wednesday, Friday and Sunday are our lucky days, but Thursday is unlucky. Are you, I asked, friends with the Mohammedans? Or are you foes? Here in the country round Aleppo, where we are few, they do not fear us, and we live at peace with them. But every year there comes to us from Mosul a very learned sheikh who collects tribute among us, and he wonders to see us like brothers with the Muslims, for in Mosul, where the Yezidis are many, there is bitter feud. In Mosul, our people will not serve in the army, but here we serve like any other. I myself have been a soldier.
Eventually, he spoke of their eschatology, a mythic vision of the world's end.
When the end of the world is near, Hadud Madud will appear. He will drink all the seas and all the rivers, and the earth will be drained dry. Out of the dust will spring a great worm, and he will devour Hadud Madud. And then will come the Mahdi, and he will summon the 4 sects, Yezidis, Christians, Muslims, and Jews. But those that while they lived changed from one faith to another, they shall be tried by fire.
When asked if he considered all religions equal, Musa responded diplomatically, at first.
The Christians and the Jews we think equal to us. And the Muslims? We think them to be swine, he said.
Bell's time in the Kurdish Highlands left a lasting impression. The hospitality, the strength of kinship, and the resilient culture stood in contrast to the poverty imposed by Ottoman economic mismanagement. A once thriving tobacco industry had collapsed under the weight of imperial economic control. In 1884, the Ottoman government, under pressure from its European creditors, granted a French and British-backed company exclusive rights over the tobacco trade.
The Kurds used to grow tobacco on the neighboring slopes and sell it in the villages or even export it to Aleppo till the government regime was established and paid the Kurds such miserable prices that they were unable to make a profit. As there was no other market, the industry ceased altogether, the people turned their fields into pasture and now keep goats and sheep instead of growing tobacco. And now we are all poor, said Musa in conclusion.
Still, In the face of economic decline and political neglect, the people she encountered remained proud, generous, and deeply rooted in their land. Among them, Bell found a quiet nobility that refused to be reduced to circumstance.
Fine, well-built people were they all, with beautiful faces, illumined by the smile that was Musa's chief attraction. For their sake, the Kurdish race shall hold hereafter a large place in my esteem.
She rode on toward Antioch, carrying with her not only maps and notes, but the imprint of a people too often overlooked,